Already learned that a monopoly is a single seller and many buyers. A monopsony, however, is the exact opposite, only one buyer. The best real-life example to think of would be old coal mining towns, where people didn't really have any other option except to work in the coal mine, so that's where everybody worked. Recall that in a competitive market there are many different firms competing against each other. Because of this, employers don't really have much say in setting wages. Workers in these markets have more mobility or ease of changing job types. In our graph here, we have labor force or number of workers as the x-axis and wages in dollars per hour as the y-axis. We can show the perfectly competitive market by drawing our typical supply and demand graph here. A downward sloping demand curve and an upward sloping supply curve. Our demand curve, D, will also be set equal to our value of the marginal product of labor. This is just the difference in revenue earned if we employ one more worker or unit of labor. Our supply curve, S, will be equal to our average cost of labor. The point where these two lines intersect right here is our perfect competition equilibrium point, which we'll label EQ star. In equilibrium, we'll say that our L star will be 150 workers and they'll be hired at about $15 per hour. In a monopsony market, workers have less mobility. This means we have more ability to change wages. Workers don't have many other jobs to choose from, so they will stay and continue to work even at a lower wage. In order to attract these workers, employers will offer a higher wage but can then push these wages down once the workers are employed. We can now draw in the marginal cost of labor for the monopsony, which is going to look something like this. And we're going to label that MCL. This line is steeper because the marginal cost is greater than the wage. We can see at the equilibrium point right here, which I will label EQM, is where the marginal cost of labor intersects our demand curve from earlier. At this point, the monopsony will hire, we'll label this L, monopsony, 100 workers at about $17 per hour. This is how much these workers are worth, or this is their value of the marginal product of labor. However, we learned that in a monopsony, the employers will push these wages down. These workers are going to end up getting paid right here at this point about $10 per hour. This means that the wages are less than the value of the marginal product of labor, which I'll draw in right here. This is their value of the marginal product of labor, and this is the wages that they're actually getting paid. Workers getting paid less than their worth is known as the monopsony rate of exploitation. The monopsony rate of exploitation is just this value minus the wage that they're actually earning. So in this case, it would be $7. This area, shaded in right here, is known as deadweight loss. In this case, less workers are employed than in a perfectly competitive market, and these workers are also paid less than those in perfectly competitive markets.